Alright guys, welcome back. In VBA, there are two main types of functions. Excel functions, known as worksheet functions, and VBA functions. Excel functions are the functions that you write on the Excel workbook, such as the sum ifs, count ifs, VLOOKUPs, etc. And then you have the second type of function, which are the VBA functions. So the reason why we want to use the VBA functions is that while you could access almost all of the functions on VBA, there are instances where you sometimes have to use VBA functions. Okay, so I'll explain that to you later. Okay, so let's dive in and see how we can write Excel and VBA functions on VBA. So I'm going to go into the Visual Basic application, and to view the list of available Excel and VBA functions, we can go to the object browser. So you can either hit F2 or click on this icon. So I'm just going to click on this, and then I'm going to go to my Excel, and then I'll go to my worksheet functions, and I'll be able to see the list of available Excel functions on VBA. Okay, so give or take 95% of the Excel functions are available on the VBA editor as Excel.worksheet function. Okay, so you also have the VBA functions. So to view the list of available VBA functions, you can go to VBA, either go to VBA.maths and you can see the list of functions under math. You can go to VBA strings and see the list of available functions under strings. So the way to call them is VBA.strings and dot whatever the member that's in it. Okay, then you also can go to VBA.financial and see the list of available functions for financials. Okay, so you can call them VBA.financials dot and whatever the functions that you want to call upon. Okay, so remember that. Keep this in mind. Two types of functions in VBA. There are the Excel functions and the VBA functions. To access the Excel functions, you use the Excel.worksheet functions, and the VBA functions, we use the VBA dot whatever the functions is. Okay, and let's dive into some practical examples. Okay, so on my workbook, I have a table. Okay, so this table, what it's basically doing is I want to use a simple VLOOKUP to get the corresponding quantity for the fruit that I've chosen. Okay, and then on the second table, I'm going to do something with the sum ifs to get the sum of the salary based on the criteria range for either column A, B, or C. Okay, so let's start with Excel functions. Okay, and let's do a simple VLOOKUP. For that, I'm going to populate my results onto range. What range was it? G5. Okay, I'm using the code name because the worksheet and the code are on the same workbook. Okay, and then I'm going to say Excel.work. Just dock this away, right? Get more space. Alright, worksheet function, and when I see intelligence on the line that I need, I'm just going to hit Control Enter. Dot VLOOKUP, and the fruit that I'm interested in is apple. What's the table range, right? That's the second argument, right? So sheet 1 dot range A3 to B9. Okay, A3 to B9. And then I want to get the corresponding quantity for apple. So that's on the second column, right? And then we want an exact match. Okay, so I get false. Okay, so now if I run the code, I hit F5, I should see the results on G5. Okay, so instead of apple, I could also use a range cell for the VLOOKUP. Okay, so I could say it's sheet 1 dot range G5 equals to Excel dot worksheet control function dot VLOOKUP, and instead of apple, I want to get the results that appears on, say, range F3. Okay, so we're going to have some value in F3, and we're going to see what the results return is. Okay, F3 dot value. Now to move, if I want to extend my code into the second line, then all I have to do is hit space, underscore, and then move to the next line. Okay, so now it's a continuation. So what's the table range? Once again, it's A3 to B9, and I want the second column and an exact match. Okay, so now I'm just gonna have on F3, I'll just have some fruits. Okay, I'm gonna just name it apple. If I run the macro, okay, we're returning the results on G6. Okay, not G5, we're returning it on G6. Okay, so if I run the macro, I should see the results for orange populated on G6. Okay, so orange is 15. Okay, next let's go to the SUMIFAS function. Okay, so I want to get the SUMIFAS of the salary for the quality control department. Okay, so quality control department. So the first argument is obviously the sum range, which is this range here, and then the second argument is the criteria range, which is B5 to B31, and then you have the criteria, which is B15. Okay, so it's exactly as what it is in Excel. So we're just translating it onto VBA. Okay, and we're going to populate the results on the yellow highlighted cell, which is K13. Okay, dot value equals to Excel dot worksheet function dot sum ifas, and then I'm going to have the first argument, which is the sum range. That's just going to be D15 to D31, and then break the second line, and sheet 1 dot range. The second argument is the range, the criteria range, right? That's B15 to B31, and the final one is the criteria, which is the criteria of quality control, which was on J13. Okay, then I'm just going to close the bracket. Now, if I run the macro, so we should see the results returning on K13, right? The results should be populated onto K13. So run a macro, and I get the results. Okay, so if you're not getting the currency that you are looking for, then it has to do something with the regional settings on your Windows. So you can go and look that up on YouTube or Google as to how to do the fixing. Okay, so once you have changed your regional settings and you sync it, okay, you sync the thing, and then you can also make sure that you have the settings on the regional settings set on this section, right? Basically, to make sure that you have the regions that corresponds to the currency that you're looking for. Okay, so for the SUMIFAS, you could also use the entire column instead of the range, right? For example, instead of saying range D15 to D31, you could say something like sheet 1 dot range D to D. Okay. However, though, you have to make sure that there's nothing there's nothing underneath this table, right? You don't want to have a second table underneath this column A to D, right? Otherwise, it's going to mess up the results. Okay. So now we can also use the L row. Okay. That I'll just give L row as long, and then I just have L row equals to sheet 1 dot range A and rows dot count dot n excel dot row. Okay, so I'm getting the last row for this range. Okay, so basically I want to make sure that when I run the SumIfS function, it's going to select the range from the first row all the way up to the last row. Okay, because currently the SumIfS that I've written is static, right? It's only going all the way to D31. We want to make it more dynamic. Okay, so for that, that's why I have the L row, and then I can just say sheet1 dot range. I can just copy this. Okay, just copy this back, and then make some amendment. Okay, so D15 to D. Okay, this one here, we have gone through how to concatenate L row and all that, right? So just have L row. Okay, and B50 to B31. I'm going to concatenate it with L row. And I want to return the results on K13. Okay. Now if I run the macro, you see the results appearing on K40. Okay. So however, though, this is dynamic. Okay. Now if I just add another row. Okay, so it's quality control. I run the macro. You see the results for K14 is now accounting the last row. But K13 is going just all the way to K31. That's why you see the results for K13 and 14. They're different, right? They're different. This is how you use the L row. Okay. And then you also have the left, mid, and the right on Excel function, which can be accessed on the VBA using the VBA function, right? For that, we can use the VBA.mid, VBA.left, okay? So you can also use VBA.strings.mid, okay? Or you can just even bypass the strings, right? And just go directly to VBA.mid. Yeah, you can also do that, okay? And then you also have the trim function, okay? The trim function in Excel and VBA are different though, okay? For example, I'll just have a string, okay? I'm going to say I have and some space, okay, between the have and a. So the trim function in VBA only removes leading and trailing space, okay? Only removes leading and trailing space. Okay, I'm just going to have some space here, okay, for the leading and some space on the trailing. So it's only going to clear up the space on this side and this side. It's not going to touch the internal space. It's not going to touch the internal space. But the trim function in VBA removes leading and trailing as well as internal space. Okay? As well as the space, internal space. Meaning this space here is going to get fixed as well. Okay? And then you also have the search function in Excel, which can be accessed on VBA using the INSTR. Okay, so as I've told you that while you have most of the functions on Excel available on VBA, there are instances where you cannot find the function on VBA. And one such function is a search function, right? So instead of search, you have to use the INSTR. The INSTR is a function that is the equivalent of search in VBA. Okay, but it's a lot more powerful, right? Because you have these different types of comparison. You have the maybe text compare, binary comparison. Okay, so I suggest you go and look this up, right? Research this. This is going to be a very important function, right? Especially if you're working with text a lot, right? And this is the function that you should definitely study on your own, right? Then we also have the val function. So what's the val function? The val function is basically exact literal representation of what you write on Excel. Okay, so suppose if I'm writing a VLOOKUP function, on Excel, so I'm just going to write a VLOOKUP function, and then I'm just say the lookup value is just going to be this value, okay, and then the table array is just going to be this table array, I'm going to be F4, and then the corresponding column is the second column, and I'm going to say false. Then I'm going to close it. Okay, so this is now an Excel function. Now I could just copy this. Okay, I could just copy this and then go back to my VBA editor. So I'm just going to paste it here as a comment first. Okay, I'm going to paste it as a comment. So I could use this function that I've written on Excel, okay, by enclosing it with a square bracket. So it's called the val function. Okay, what I mean is that, okay, I can return the results of the val function on G7. Okay, so for that, I'm just going to sheet 1. We're going to have a square bracket G7, and then I'm going to say equals to sheet 1. We have this square bracket, and I can just copy this function, whatever that I've written in Excel. I just get to copy, paste it, and then enclose it with the square bracket. Okay. So now if I run a macro, I'll see the results. Okay. So this is one way you can write Excel formulas on VBA. However, there is a setback to this function, because the whole purpose of using VBA is we want to be able to create dynamic functions, right? We want to be able to create dynamic functions so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel over and over again. But what you're doing with the val function is that it's completely static. It's not able to, for example, make amendments to the function and have the last row to concatenate it with the last row, okay, as we do with the Excel.worksheet function, okay? So this is the reason why we parse Excel formulas in VBA with literal strings. Okay, so this will be something that we'll be covering in future episodes, right? Okay, but for now, just understand that, well, you know, if you're gonna write an Excel formula, then you could translate that formula to VBA using the val function. Okay, but it's completely static. Okay, it's a literal representation. Okay, literal representation. Okay, you cannot make modification onto the val function by combining it with the last row or whatever. Okay, you can't do that. Okay. Also, one more thing, in programming language, equal sign does not mean left side is equal to the right side. Equal to right side. Okay, it's not mathematics. Okay, in structured programming, okay, value on the left is assigned to by the value on the right. Keep that in mind. Okay, so whatever value that's on the left here, I'm assigning it to by the value on the right. Okay, so that's something that you have to keep in mind. Okay, now let's go through some date functions. All right, so date function is one of the more common functions in VBA, right? So sub VBA functions. So for that, I'm going to say dim A as date. Okay, and I want to get the current date. The current date. For that, I just have to say A equals to VBA dot date. Okay, just close it with a bracket. Okay, and I debug dot print A should return me the current date. If I run it, it returns me the current date. Okay, which is the date, today's date. Okay, so I can also assign a particular date. Okay, the way I'm going to do it, I'm just going to dim B as date, and then B is going to use the VBA dot date serial, and I'm going to have the year. I'm just going to have 2020, and then the month as just 2, and the day is just 12. Now I debug dot print B. If I run it, I should be able to see the date, right? I'm seeing the date. I can also extract the year, month, and day from a particular date. Okay, for that, you're going to use the year, month, and day function. Okay, so I'm just going to dim day extract as long, dim month extract as long, dim year extract as long. Okay, so the year extract, if I want to get the year of a date, all I have to do is just copy this and paste it, and I'm just going to say VBA.year, and the date is just going to be date B. Okay, this date right here. Okay, and for the month extract, I do the exact same thing, except instead of having year, I'm going to have month. And for the day extract, instead of having month, I'm going to have, that's right, we're going to have day. Okay. And now I'm just going to set a stop, right? So we can view the results. So if I run, so it stopped at where I've stated stop, and now I can just go to the top here and see it and just hover over the mouse on the variable, and you should see the result. 2020, month is 2 and 12, right? So that's the corresponding year, month, and date of this date. Okay, and it seems that we are right. Okay, spot on. Then we can also find the difference in day, month, and year. Okay, for that I'm just gonna say day div as long, dim month div as long, dim year div as long. Okay, so I'm going to find the day diff. All I have to do is find the day difference, okay, between two particular dates. All I have to do is just use this command, VBA dot date diff. Okay, and what's the parameter I'm interested in? The day. So we're going to have this day wrapped around a double inverted comma, right? And then what's the end date and the start date? So I'm just going to use this date here, the two dates I've assigned, right? Basically this date and the current date. Okay. Likewise, I can also find a month difference. Okay, never mind. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna copy paste this again. Control C, Control V, and I can just copy this back. What I've written here. And instead of having day D, I'm going to have month. Okay, for that I'll use M. Okay, and then I can also have the year diff. Okay, I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it. And instead of M, I can have Y. Okay, stands for years. Okay, so you can also find the difference in hours, minutes, okay, seconds. Okay. So the date diff is a function that you should definitely go and look up. Okay, try to research on this because you have a lot of differences, a lot of parameter of differences that you could use, right? Not just date. It's not just restricted to day, month, or year, right? You can find the hours, weeks, etc. Okay. So that's about it. Okay, the general overview of the Excel function and VBA function. Okay, so remember, go to the object library to find the list of available Excel functions. Okay, you have to go to Excel, then you go to the worksheet functions. Okay, so I'm going to go to the worksheet functions. I have to see the list of available functions that are available on the Excel workbook. Okay, however, not all the functions on Excel workbook are available on VBA. Okay, using the worksheet function. That's why there are instances where you have to use the VBA function. Okay, so you go to VBA and you can find the list of functions. Okay, you have different categories of VBA functions: math, strings, financial. Okay. So that's the way, right? The general premise of the Excel and VBA function. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next lecture.